Before starting this topic, I will ask one good mind-bending question. What actually is this money? What do we really know about this piece of paper? Do you actually have deep knowledge about this paper? Just earn it, run behind it, and later it makes us sit down and kills us. Okay, all of that is fine, but what actually is it? Before going into the topic, deep down, all of us feel that this is not a very important matter. Look, I will tell you simply, most of us are middle class. Every single day, we are running only for money. At some moment, one question comes into our mind. Why was this money actually created? Wouldn't it have been better if this didn't exist? Think about it once. How would the world run without money? Now, for suppose, imagine there is nobody on Earth. There are only you and 10 other people whom you don't know. You built a house for yourself and you are living comfortably under a tree, but you don't have anything to eat. Then what will you do? While wandering here and there, you see one person sitting under a tree. It is a fruit tree, and he is happily sitting there and eating. You go and ask him, "Will you give me a little food to eat?" He refuses. A question comes into his mind. What benefit do I get? Then what will you do? You ask him, "Do you have a house?" He says no. He's living under that tree itself. So what will you tell him? "I will build you a house. Give me some food too." He accepts that. Because you helped him, he helps you. So moving like this, finally you come to one conclusion. That itself is trade. You have to give him something, and you have to take something from him. Look, once again, after going here and there, you have come back and stopped at money. Even when we were small, we used to wonder, what actually is that paper? We give this piece of paper and bring food. We buy clothes. We can even buy a house. Compared to those days, now it feels even stranger. For today's children, there are just some numbers on a phone. With those numbers, they can pay an electricity bill, order something on Swiggy, or order anything. But think once. Suppose you find a 500 rupee note, but you are on an island that is thousands of kilometers away from a city. Does that 500 rupee note have any value there? You cannot eat it. You cannot drink it. You cannot even build a shelter with it. That is why money has value only in the middle of civilization. A shopkeeper, a bank, a business, everyone accepts it. If that trust does not exist, it is just paper, or just a number on a screen. Now this topic searches for answers to some very big questions. Where did this money actually come from? Why at one point in time was gold treated like real money? How do banks create this money? And if you keep thinking like that as time passes, every item you want to buy becomes more expensive compared to the money you have. There are answers to every one of these questions, but first we have to go to a tiny island. Chapter 1. The island we are talking about is called Yap Island. Hundreds of years ago, people used giant stone discs. They called them rye stones. Yes, in Telugu we say rayi for stone, and they called it rye stone. They considered that itself as money. Some of them were small, but some weighed several tons. To say it strongly, some were heavier than an elephant. Moving one of them itself was a huge task. Here, one question will come to your mind. Suppose somebody wanted to buy land, or suppose somebody wanted to get married. If they needed money for all those things, would they move that stone? There was no such scene. If they had to move such a huge stone, their marriage itself would probably be over by the time they moved it. So instead, they simply told the entire village, "This stone now belongs to him." Like that, every time somebody used that stone to buy something, everybody believed that the stone now belonged to that person. The stone remained exactly where it was, only the ownership changed. Now this starts making sense, right? Even today, the money you have does not physically move. When you transfer 10,000 rupees from your phone, do you think actual physical cash is moving? That does not happen. The bank simply updates the records. Who now owns the money? Who has lost that money? This teaches us one surprising lesson. Money is not only an object, it is trust. It is a record of ownership. Here another question will come to your mind. I said this happened hundreds of years ago, right? If people were using these giant stones as money hundreds of years ago, then before that, without money, how did human beings trade? And like that, our story moves somewhere else. Chapter 2. Before coins. Most of us learned one thing in school. Barter came first. Only after barter did money arrive. Barter means exchanging goods. I told you the same thing at the beginning, right? You do work for me and I will give you a house. Similarly, you give me grain and I will give you water. But over time, what one person wanted would not always be available with another person, and coins came into that gap. Sounds simple, right? But our history tells a different story. Even before coins existed, people were not constantly asking for one item in exchange for another item. Instead, what did? They depended on trust. If you helped a person with farming, when you later built a house, that person would help you with your house. So nobody was exchanging something every single day. Instead, they remembered things. Who owned what? Here you might get a doubt. Were they really that intelligent? Were they able to remember who owned everything? Today we keep a pen somewhere and then keep searching, wondering, where did I put that pen? So you may wonder where those people got such a good memory. But at that time, there were villages. After villages grew into cities, and as civilization evolved, their memory was no longer enough. About 5,000 years ago in ancient Mesopotamia, people wrote down debts, they wrote wages, they wrote taxes, they even wrote loans. They maintained records on clay tablets. Who did this item belong to? Who took it? Even though money was not physically passing from one hand to another, they wrote records of it. This brings out one fascinating thing. Money here does not mean a coin or a paper. It measures value, and it keeps track of trust. That is why coins came much later. Coins made trading, especially trading with complete strangers, easier and faster. Chapter 3. The Power of Coins. Imagine that you are in an ancient marketplace. You want to buy some food, you have a small piece of gold, you take it into the market and try to buy something. Then the seller asks you, is this real? Is this pure? Is this worth what you are trying to buy? Because of that, they have to check it. They have to check whether you are a thief or a good person. They have to check whether what you gave is actually worth the product. By the time they check everything and finally give you the product, a lot of time is wasted. So people came up with a smarter idea. That idea was coins. Instead of carrying random pieces of metal, governments stamped those coins with an official seal. That stamp told everyone, this coin has the correct weight. It also has a certain purity. Suddenly, buying and selling became much faster. People trusted that coin. These coins also gave governments a lot of power. They could collect taxes, they could pay soldiers, they could bring their entire country into a standardized trade system. But there was also one problem. Some rulers, leaders in the middle, started mixing cheaper metals into the coins. They made low-quality coins look like they had the same worth. The name given to this was debasing or debasement. As time passed and people started realizing what was happening, they started losing trust. There was another issue too. Coins were very heavy. If you were a rich person, carrying all those coins became a huge task. So people started looking for a better solution. Instead of carrying gold, they started carrying a promise. That promise said that the gold belonged to them. That means they would put all their gold, all their money in one place, and carry a promise showing that the gold belonged to them. And like that, the journey toward paper money and banks began. Chapter 4. When paper became money, first we have to go to China. Because carrying a large bag full of metal coins while traveling was obviously not a very good thing, there was risk. If you wanted to buy something, the process was very slow, and if thieves saw you, there was basically no chance of escaping easily. So what did people do? They came up with a smart solution. Instead of carrying all these coins every single time, they thought, let us keep them in one trusted place. Just like I explained earlier, they put the coins in one place and received a paper receipt. That paper said, your coins are safe. Your coins are safely stored here. People immediately started trusting it. People started using that paper itself like money. Later, the Chinese government officially introduced paper currency to make trade faster, to make trade safer, and to make trade easier. But there was a problem there too. Printing paper is very easy. Compared to digging gold out of the ground, printing paper is extremely easy. Suppose too much paper is printed and shown as money. People start losing trust. Money also starts losing its value. So here the real value of money is not just the paper, it is trust. People trust the institution from which that paper came. Eventually, this simple idea traveled to another place, Europe. And that is where the birth of modern banks comes in. Chapter 5. The Goldsmith's Receipt. Imagine that you are in 17th century London. You have a bag full of gold. You cannot simply hide all of it under your bed, because you don't know who might come. You don't know how somebody might steal it. You don't even know whether the gold will still be there when you wake up. So people gave their gold to goldsmiths. They deposited it with them, because goldsmiths had stronger and more secure vaults. In return, they gave people a receipt, a paper receipt. That receipt said that their gold was safely stored. At first, people used those receipts only to collect their gold again. But very soon, they discovered something interesting. Just like I explained earlier, when everybody trusted that goldsmith, people started treating the receipt they had just like money. Then the goldsmiths also noticed something. People came to collect their gold, but all the people were not coming at the exact same time to collect all of their gold. So what did the goldsmith do with that gold? He gave some of that gold to businesses as loans, and he collected interest from them. This idea eventually became the foundation of modern banking, but it also created one risk. Suppose everybody went to withdraw their money on the same day, the bank would not have enough cash. That is why today we have central banks, we have banking rules, to keep the system stable and to maintain people's trust. Chapter 6. How banks create money. Most people, including us, think banks work like this. One person comes and deposits money, then the bank gives that exact same money to somebody else as a loan. But modern banking works a little differently. Suppose you go into a bank asking for a 10 lakh rupees business loan. The bank does not necessarily go to one wallet, take somebody else's money, and physically hand it to you. What they simply do is add 10 lakh rupees to your bank account. Digitally, it shows that the money has been credited to you. Then you use that money to buy machines, to pay workers, to start your business. And like that money starts circulating through the economy. But don't misunderstand this and think banks can create unlimited money. Banks have to follow strict government rules, they need to have enough capital, and they also have to check whether the borrowers who are taking loans can definitely repay them. Otherwise, the bank will get into very big trouble. Here there is another interesting part. When you repay that 10 lakh rupees, that money disappears from circulation. It is as if that money no longer exists. But wait, you take 10 lakh rupees. But how much do you repay? 11 lakh rupees, with interest. Then where did that extra 1 lakh rupees come from? We will look at that mystery in the next chapter. Chapter 7. The interest question. Here is a question that confuses many people. If a bank gives you a 10 lakh rupees loan and you repay 11 lakh rupees, where did that extra 1 lakh rupees come from? How was it created? The answer is actually very simple. Look, you took 10 lakh rupees and used it to open your business. Your customers bought your products. You made a profit. You paid your employees. That money moved from one person to another person. As time passed, you earned enough income, enough to repay the loan and also pay the interest. So that extra 1 lakh rupees did not suddenly fall from somewhere. Where did it come from? It came from the money already circulating in the economy. However, there is one catch here. Debt can be very useful. Suppose you take a loan and start a business, or you want to buy equipment, or you want to invest in something valuable. Then debt can be very helpful, but people sometimes borrow money to buy things that they cannot afford. Because of that, they get into financial problems. In simple words, borrowing money is not automatically a good thing or a bad thing. When it creates value, it can also build your wealth. If you use it carelessly, it can create some very serious problems for you. Chapter 8. Central Banks. Let us understand this banking system like a school. Every commercial bank is like a classroom. It serves its own students. Inside those classrooms, customers like you, me, and people like us are served by the banks. But who manages the entire school? The principal. In our financial world, that principal is the central bank. A central bank does not open normal savings accounts for the public. It does not give ordinary loans directly to the public. Instead, it manages the country's money, it controls interest rates, it prints currency, and it checks whether every bank is following the rules. Here is one small example. Suppose you send 10,000 rupees from your account to your friend's account. Suppose your account is in Bank A and your friend's account is in Bank B. For us, it looks very simple. We open the phone, press a button, and the money goes. But what happens behind the scenes? How do those two banks settle that payment? They use central bank money. Those two banks use the money they keep with the central bank. That money is called reserves. That is why 100 rupees in one bank is treated as the same 100 rupees in another bank. Why do we have so much confidence in that? Because the central bank makes the banking system run smoothly. So, in simple words, the central bank is like the biggest bank that controls every other bank. It keeps count of the money. It checks whether everything is safe and satisfactory for the public, because only when it is like that will people trust the financial system. Chapter 9. Why gold became important. For thousands of years, people across the earth have trusted gold. But why gold? Why not iron? Why not wood? Why not copper? The answer is simple. Gold does not rust. It does not break easily. It is also very difficult to find. Most importantly, nobody can simply manufacture it whenever they want, because it is rare, and it can last for centuries. Even after human beings die, the gold can remain. So people gave it value. When so many people trusted gold, we started using it as wealth. We also started using it as money. But gold is not perfect. Imagine carrying 10 kilograms of gold to make a payment. What would that be like? It would be extremely heavy. And if you wanted to protect it, you would need Z+ level security. Suppose the economy grows. We cannot simply increase the amount of gold at the same speed. Let us agree that gold is extremely valuable, but if you think practically, it could not grow as fast as the modern economy. I will explain it in simple words. Why did gold become valuable? Because it is rare, it is durable, and it is trusted. Not one country, not two countries, almost every country trusted it. But gold also has limitations. Now let us go to Chapter 10. Chapter 10, Bretton Woods in 1971. After World War II, many countries wanted one thing, a stable financial system, because that would help global trade recover. So in 1944, they met at Bretton Woods. They made an important agreement. The plan here was very simple. Understand it like this. Many countries placed their trust in the US dollar. Why? Because America promised foreign governments something. Foreign governments could give the United States dollars and exchange those dollars for real gold, and they could do it at a fixed price. They could take the gold whenever they wanted. For a few years, the system worked well, but then a problem appeared. As the world economy grew, the United States printed more dollars. Why did the US print more dollars? Because countries needed those dollars for trade, but the United States did not have enough gold to match all those dollars. Now, obviously, other countries started asking, if we give you all the dollars we have and ask for all the gold behind those dollars, does the United States actually have enough gold? And that is where a turning point came. In 1971, US President Richard Nixon stopped the system where dollars could be exchanged for gold. Because of this, the gold-backed money system ended. After that, money started having value based on government trust itself. We call this the fiat money system. Most countries still use the same system today, so I will explain the whole point simply. After 1971, money had value without direct gold involvement. And how did money get that value? Because people trusted their governments. Chapter 11. Fiat money. Today, countries around the world use fiat money. What does that actually mean? It is very simple. Fiat money means money that is not connected to gold or silver. Think about this. Why do you accept a 500 rupee note? Because every shopkeeper accepts it. Every bank accepts it. Every business accepts it. Almost anyone accepts it. That is why you trust the 500 rupee note. It is not because the 500 rupee note itself is made from gold or silver. It is simply a piece of paper. The government also tells you to pay taxes using that money. Companies pay salaries using that money. Banks use it every single day. That is why it has value. But here there is one important rule. Governments have the power to print money, but they have to be extremely careful about how much money they print. Suppose they print too much money, but their country is not producing enough goods and services. Then prices start flying upward. That is what we call inflation. On the other hand, suppose too little money circulates, then businesses, jobs, and everything else can be affected. In simple words, fiat money is not connected to gold. It moves based on people's trust. Trust in the country's economy, trust in the government, trust in the financial system. Chapter 12. Why prices rise. Have you ever noticed something? Something that used to cost 20 rupees a few years ago may now cost 40 rupees or 50 rupees. In simple words, that is what we call inflation. Inflation means that over time, the prices of goods and services increase. That means the purchasing power of your money decreases. But why does this happen? There is not just one reason. Sometimes people have a lot of money compared to what businesses can produce. Sometimes fuel prices increase, crops fail, global events disturb supply. And sometimes, just like I explained earlier, the government may print more money than expected. That can also have an effect. But the result is the same. Whatever the factor may be, the money you have today cannot buy the same things it once bought. The amount you once paid for a Goli soda may not be enough to buy the same Goli soda today. That is the one thing you have to remember about inflation. Chapter 13. Why central banks target inflation. At first, 0% sounds like the best possible inflation rate. Prices would not increase. That sounds perfect, right? Surprisingly, it is not. That is why many central banks target around 2% inflation instead of 0. I will explain why. Suppose prices keep falling every year. What do we call that? Deflation. People start thinking, why should I buy a TV today? After a few days or a few months, that same TV might become much cheaper. Then not one person, not two people, but crores of people start thinking a lot before spending their money. Business sales also decrease. Businesses make less money. There are fewer jobs. Companies stop hiring. Because of that, the entire economy gets damaged. On the other hand, inflation can be okay, but suppose very high inflation comes. That is not good at all. Every price goes up. And the salaries of people like us may not rise at the same speed. We may not even be able to peacefully eat one full plate of biryani. That is why the central bank tries very hard to keep inflation low and stable. It should not be too high, and it should not be too low either. Chapter 14. Who wins and who loses, yes. When inflation rises, who wins and who loses? For suppose inflation rises. Everybody is not affected in exactly the same way. Some people lose money, some people gain. For example, suppose you keep all your savings in cash. Inflation reduces the purchasing power of that cash. But suppose your salary increases faster than inflation, then the things you want to buy may not feel very expensive to you. At the same time, they may not feel extremely cheap either. But here is another example. Suppose you take a 20 lakh rupees home loan, and suppose it has a fixed interest rate. After a few years, your salary may increase because of inflation, but your loan amount remains the same, so in one way, paying that loan becomes easier for you. On the other hand, consider a retired person living on a fixed pension. Imagine our grandfather. He may struggle. Why? Because his expenses are increasing, but the pension he receives remains the same. The same thing happens with businesses. Some businesses can increase their prices and make profits, but others become victims of inflation. Conclusion. Now let us come to the conclusion. In this conclusion, let us understand everything from the beginning until now. First, what actually is money? Is it gold? No. Is it paper? That is also not exactly it. Is it simply a number on our phone? We cannot say that exactly either. Money is something much bigger. This entire system called money is built mainly on one thing: trust. Think about the journey we have taken from the beginning until now. It started with the rye stones on Yap Island. Ownership changed. Even without physically moving the stone, ownership changed. Ancient civilizations, even without coins, perfectly remembered what they took from other people and what they gave to them. Then coins came. Coins made trade easier. Because of paper, money became lighter. Then banks came. And eventually, digital money was also accepted. Today, most people's money exists mainly as numbers on screens. Every version of money solved one problem, but every version also created another problem. Look, gold is extremely valuable even today, but we cannot carry it everywhere all the time. Paper is convenient. But if too much paper money is printed, think about how many consequences can come. Digital money is extremely fast, but it depends on banks, it depends on technology, and it also depends on trust. So what is the biggest lesson here? The money we have does not have value simply because of the material it is made from. Why did it get value? Because billions of people agreed on it. They trusted it. That is why they accept it. The balance in your bank account is not physical wealth sitting inside your phone. It is simply a promise. Banks protect that promise. Laws also protect it. And millions of people, crores and crores of people, people you have never met and may never be able to meet, are all agreeing to the same thing. That is why money still has value.